Elias Mercer had seen many things in his life, but nothing like this. He had spent years exploring planets at the far edges of human-mapped space, mapping their terrain, studying their flora, and cataloging any life forms he could find. Yet nothing had prepared him for the strange glow of the forests of Vieira Prime. The trees here weren't like any he had seen before. They shimmered with soft light, their leaves seeming to hum faintly in the wind. The air itself was thick with a metallic scent, almost electric, and yet it was strangely pleasant, making him feel alert, alive, and slightly uneasy all at once. He was carefully taking notes, hovering just above the ground in his hover boots when a shadow passed overhead. At first, he thought it was some kind of enormous bird, one of the native predators he had read about in reports from distant probes. But this shadow moved too quickly, too deliberately, and there was a sound that wasn't natural. The soft hum of energy like a heartbeat, vibrating through the air. Elias froze. His instincts, honed over years of survival in strange and dangerous places, told him to stay still. Then he saw it. A ship, unlike any human design, descended from the sky. Its surface was smooth and reflective, changing colors as it moved, almost like liquid metal. There were no visible seams, no engines, no weapons. It simply hovered, as if it had always belonged to the sky. The trees bent slightly, as though acknowledging its presence, their luminescent leaves swaying in a rhythm Elias could almost feel. The ship landed gracefully in a clearing nearby. A ramp extended downward, glowing faintly. Elias' heart pounded in his chest. He knew contact with aliens could be dangerous. Some encounters had ended in death for explorers less cautious than him. But he also knew this might be the most important moment of his life. He stepped forward, hands raised slightly as a gesture of peace. From the ship she emerged, the alien queen. Elias had read about rulers of alien civilizations, but nothing in his training prepared him for seeing one in person. She was tall, far taller than a human, with skin that shimmered like polished stone under the sunlight. Her eyes were deep pools of color that seemed to shift with her mood, reflecting the forest around her. There was a presence about her, a sense of power and intelligence, but also something softer, a calm that made the danger he expected fade slightly. "Elias Mercer," she said, her voice musical, yet commanding. It reverberated in his mind as much as in his ears, making him feel as though she spoke directly to his thoughts. "We have been observing your kind. You are different." Elias swallowed, feeling the words catch in his throat. "Different? How?" he asked. He had to be careful. He knew that in interactions with alien species, every word mattered. "You possess qualities that others do not," she said. "Courage, yes, but also empathy, the ability to understand and care for beings unlike yourself. That is rare in the galaxy." She paused and took a step closer, and he noticed that the energy around her seemed to pulse, almost like the beat of a heart, though enormous in scale. "Because of this, I have brought you here. Not for conflict, not for conquest, but for a choice." Before he could react, she lowered herself gracefully to the ground, and in her arms there was a small creature. At first, Elias thought it was a young alien, but as it stepped forward, he realized it was a child, delicate, almost ethereal. Its skin was pale with faint patterns that glowed softly in the dim light. Its large eyes were wide and curious, shimmering with colors Elias didn't have words for. It took tiny, hesitant steps toward him. "This is my daughter," the queen said, placing the small being into his arms. "Her name is Leora. She is fragile, but she carries the future of my people. Be gentle with her." Elias' mind spun. He had expected many things during his career, but this was something entirely new. He held Leora carefully, noticing the warmth of her body despite her strange appearance. She blinked at him, her gaze intense but unafraid. For a moment there was silence. The queen watched him, her eyes sharp yet kind. "You may wonder why I trust a human with such a responsibility," she said softly. "But it is because you, Elias Mercer, have the heart to understand her, to guide her, to protect her without controlling her. Do you accept this task?" Elias hesitated. He was trained to handle unknown life forms, to protect himself, to think logically. But this was different. This was not about survival, it was about care, trust, and patience. The qualities he had sometimes thought of as soft, yet now realized were essential. He nodded slowly. I will do my best," he said. his voice steady despite the whirlwind of thoughts in his mind. The queen inclined her head, and Elias felt a pulse of energy that made his vision shimmer. Good. Then let this be the beginning. She turned, and without another word she glided back toward her ship. The ramp retracted, and with a soft hum the ship lifted into the sky and disappeared into the shimmering clouds above. Elias stood in the clearing, holding Leora, feeling the weight of the responsibility settle over him like a tangible force. She looked up at him, eyes wide, and reached a tiny hand toward his face. He bent down, allowing her to touch his cheek, and he felt something remarkable. A connection, unspoken, almost instinctual. He could sense her thoughts and emotions in the faint pulses of light on her skin. She was curious, cautious, but not afraid. For hours they remained in the clearing. Elias spoke softly to her, telling her his name, showing her his tools, explaining the sky above and the ground beneath. Leora responded with tiny gestures, subtle movements of her hands and feet, and the occasional flicker of light across her skin. Elias realized that she was learning, observing and understanding him just as he was beginning to understand her. As night fell over Veyara Prime, the forest transformed. The luminescent leaves glowed brighter, bathing the clearing in soft colors that shifted like waves. Creatures of the night began to stir, but none approached. It was as if the forest itself acknowledged the new guardian and the child in his arms. Elias set up a small shelter, using his portable equipment, and made a place for Leora to rest. She curled up gently, and he sat nearby, keeping watch, feeling an unexpected sense of peace. Even in this strange alien world, with a being from a civilization far beyond humanity, Elias felt a spark of hope. Perhaps this was not just a test of his abilities, but a chance to prove something greater, that humans were capable of understanding, of gentleness, of forging connections that could change the galaxy. As he watched Leora sleep, a soft glow emanating from her skin, Elias made a silent promise he would protect her, learn from her, and ensure that the trust placed in him by the alien queen was not misplaced. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he would face them, not as an explorer or soldier, but as a guardian. And somewhere deep within the forest, the trees whispered in colors and light, as if acknowledging a bond that had only just begun, a bond that might one day echo across stars and civilizations alike. The morning sun spilled golden light over the glowing forest of Veyara Prime. Elias Mercer stirred from his makeshift sleeping area, careful not to disturb Leora. She lay curled up in the soft padding of his portable shelter, her skin softly radiating a faint light that shifted gently with each breath. Watching her, Elias felt a mixture of awe and responsibility. Caring for a being so alien yet so delicate was unlike anything he had ever experienced. Leora stirred, her large eyes blinking open as the light of day touched her. She raised a tiny hand and reached toward Elias, her gaze curious. He smiled softly and lowered himself to her level. "Good morning, Leora," he said. "Did you sleep well?" She tilted her head, and a faint glow ran across her skin, in a pattern he was beginning to recognize as her way of communicating. Though he did not yet fully understand her language, Elias had noticed that certain pulses of light corresponded to emotions. The gentle flicker now suggested calmness mixed with curiosity. "I think it's time to explore a little," he said, standing carefully and offering his hand. Leora hesitated for a moment, then placed her small hand in his. The connection felt immediate, almost instinctual. She stepped beside him as he led her into the glowing forest. The trees shimmered in colors that seemed to respond to their movements. Leaves parted as if inviting them along, and soft hums of energy echoed through the air. Elias marveled at the harmony of the forest. It felt alive in a way he had never experienced. It was clear that Leora's presence influenced the environment, and he wondered if her being was somehow connected to the planet itself. As they walked, Elias tried to communicate with her using gestures and simple words. He pointed to a glowing vine and said, "Look, Leora, this grows here, just like trees on Earth, but it glows at night." She tilted her head, a pulse of light running along her skin, and reached toward the vine. Her fingers brushed it gently, and it shimmered brighter as if acknowledging her touch. Elias realized that she was not only observing him, she was experimenting, learning, and responding to her surroundings in her own unique way. They moved deeper into the forest, and Elias noticed small creatures peeking from behind glowing trunks. Some looked like insects, but larger than anything on Earth, with translucent wings and soft bioluminescent bodies. Others were quadrupeds, gentle in appearance, moving with cautious curiosity. Leora's presence did not seem to frighten them. In fact, some creatures approached her, drawn by the faint glow of her skin. Elias crouched to observe one of the small quadrupeds. "They're not dangerous," he whispered. "See? They're curious about you, just like I am." Leora tilted her head, her glow pulsing in rhythm with his words. Elias smiled. "I think that means, yes, you understand." The day passed slowly, filled with discovery. Elias showed her how to gather fruits that glowed softly, how to avoid plants that were sharp or emitted a strange heat, and how to move quietly when larger creatures passed by. Leora followed him closely, mimicking his movements. Her learning was fast, and Elias realized that her intelligence was remarkable. Not just her instincts, but the way she observed, experimented, and remembered. By midday, Elias found a small clearing with a gentle stream running through it. The water was clear and shimmered with the reflections of the glowing forest. He knelt and cupped the water in his hands, offering it to her. Leora hesitated, then touched the water lightly with a fingertip, her skin lighting up in a rainbow of colors. She seemed fascinated by the sensation, leaning closer to observe the ripples she caused. Elias laughed quietly. "You like it, don't you?" he asked. She responded with a small pulse of light that made him think of a smile. Elias realized that communication, even without words, could be shared through gestures, expressions, and patterns of light. It was slower than human conversation, but in its own way it felt deeper, more connected. After drinking from the stream and playing with the water, Leora wandered a few steps away, her curiosity leading her toward a cluster of luminescent flowers. Elias followed, careful not to frighten her. As she reached out, a faint energy spark flared from the flowers, brushing her skin. She jumped back slightly, her glow pulsing rapidly, a sign of surprise and slight discomfort. Elias stepped forward and placed his hand gently on hers. "It's okay," he said softly. "They won't hurt you, see?" He picked one of the flowers and held it carefully, showing her how to touch it without triggering the spark. Leora studied him, then slowly mimicked his movements. She giggled, a soft, melodic sound that seemed almost musical. Elias couldn't help smiling. For the first time, he felt a sense of success in teaching her, in bridging the gap between their two very different worlds. As the afternoon sun shifted, casting long shadows through the forest, Elias noticed something unusual. The trees around them seemed to respond to Leora's emotions. When she laughed or pulsed with curiosity, the leaves brightened. When she hesitated or startled, the colors dimmed slightly. Elias realized that her connection to the environment might be more than instinct. It might be a form of influence, subtle but real. He understood that protecting her meant understanding her world, and that her presence was changing the planet in ways he was only beginning to comprehend. By evening, Elias set up a small camp near the stream. He built a fire using safe methods, careful not to damage the glowing plants nearby, and offered Leora a place to sit beside him. She curled up close, her skin dimming softly as if settling into comfort. "Tomorrow," Elias said, "we will explore further, but tonight we rest. You are safe here." Leora's glow pulsed gently, a pattern he now recognized as contentment. Elias watched the stars emerge above the forest canopy, shining through gaps in the alien trees. He thought of the Queen, of the trust placed in him, and of the immense responsibility he now carried. Sleep came slowly, both for him and for Leora, as the forest hummed softly around them. Elias found himself reflecting on humanity, its capacity for empathy, for connection, and for understanding others, even those completely unlike themselves. In this moment, he realized why the Queen had chosen him. The survival of her daughter, and perhaps a bridge between worlds, depended not on strength or weapons, but on his ability to care, to teach, and to protect. Night deepened, and Elias dreamed of glowing forests, of a child who could communicate without words, and of stars that seemed closer than ever before. In his dreams, Leora's laughter echoed, mingling with the whispers of the forest. He woke to her small hand resting on his arm, her glow a gentle reminder that their journey had only begun. The next morning, Elias introduced Leora to new experiences, climbing low ridges, observing native creatures in motion, and experimenting with simple tools he had brought. She learned quickly, her curiosity boundless. Elias realized that teaching her was not just about instruction, it was about sharing wonder, showing her how humans approached life with creativity, observation, and patience. By midday, they encountered a small herd of the quadruped creatures again. Leora's confidence had grown and she approached them without fear. Elias stayed close, ready to intervene if needed, but she interacted naturally, mimicking the herd's movements and emitting pulses of light that seemed to calm them. Elias felt a surge of pride and hope. This was the proof that the queen had been right. Humans could nurture, understand, and connect even across species. As they rested near the stream once more, Elias reflected on the day. Leora was not just a child from another world. She was a bridge, a teacher, and a reminder of why humans were capable of something extraordinary. She trusted him, learned from him, and responded in ways that showed not just intelligence but emotion. Their bond, fragile yet growing, was the beginning of something remarkable. Night fell again and Elias set up camp. Leora lay beside him, her glow soft and steady. He felt her heartbeat like pulses through the slight vibration of her body. It was a strange, comforting rhythm, a signal that she was alive, aware, and trusting him. Elias knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for now, he allowed himself to rest, knowing that humanity's gift, its ability to care, was what truly mattered in this strange and beautiful world. The next morning, the forest of Veyara Prime was alive with energy. Elias Mercer woke early, feeling a mixture of excitement and caution. He knew that caring for Leora was not just about keeping her safe, it was also about understanding the planet and the creatures that lived here. The glowing trees swayed gently as though greeting the day, and the soft hum of energy in the air seemed to pulse with anticipation. Leora stirred beside him, blinking her large, luminous eyes at the rising sun. Her skin glimmered in soft waves reflecting the forest's light, and Elias felt a familiar warmth in his chest. He had grown used to her presence, but every day brought new surprises. She had learned quickly and her curiosity was boundless. Today he planned to explore farther, venturing into areas that might reveal more about her connection to this world. They walked carefully, Elias guiding her through narrow paths where roots twisted and leaves glowed softly underfoot. Leora's small hands reached out to touch the glowing plants, and the flora seemed to respond to her touch, shimmering brightly for a moment before returning to its soft glow. Elias watched her closely, noting that the closer she was to a plant or creature, the more it reacted. He began to suspect that her presence affected the environment in subtle but powerful ways. As they reached a shallow valley, the sound of rushing water drew their attention. A wide river cut through the forest, its surface reflecting the glowing colors of the trees. Elias pointed toward it. "Look, Leora, this river is home to many creatures. Stay close and watch carefully." She nodded, or at least, her glowing pulses seemed to indicate understanding, and followed him to the riverbank. They observed small amphibious creatures hopping from rock to rock, and larger animals drinking cautiously. Leora crouched down, her eyes wide with fascination. Elias noticed her glow responding to the creatures' movements, as if she could feel their emotions or intentions. He had no doubt now that the Queen's daughter had an extraordinary connection with the living world around her. Suddenly the ground beneath them trembled. Elias' heart skipped a beat. He had walked this terrain carefully before, but the tremor was stronger than anything he expected. Leora's glow flared brightly and she froze in place. From the trees above, a low, rumbling growl echoed, followed by the sound of cracking branches. Elias's instincts kicked in. "Leora, stay behind me," he said firmly, his hand reaching for hers. She hesitated for a moment, then instinctively pressed close to him. Elias scanned the area and saw a massive creature emerging from the forest shadows. It was unlike anything he had seen, roughly the size of a small truck with 4 powerful legs, thick armored skin, and a head shaped like a curved shield. Its eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the light from the trees. It moved with surprising speed, clearly disturbed by something, and Elias realized immediately that it could be dangerous if provoked. Elias assessed quickly. He did not want to harm the creature, but he needed to protect Leora. He noticed that its aggression seemed partly directed at her glowing pulses. The connection between Leora and the environment might have caused the creature to react unpredictably. He needed to act carefully. He stepped slightly forward, trying to appear calm. Easy. Easy. he muttered, speaking in the soft, reassuring tone he had learned worked with Leora. The creature paused, its massive head tilting to observe him. Elias extended his free hand slowly, showing no threat. "We are not here to harm you." Leora, sensing his calm, mimicked his posture in her own way, her glow softening. The creature growled again, but Elias noticed it hesitated, watching both of them. He realized that the key was patience. Any sudden movement could trigger an attack. Minutes passed like hours. Elias stayed still, speaking softly, keeping his eyes on the creature while subtly guiding Leora to mirror his calmness. Slowly, the creature lowered its head and shifted its weight. Its aggressive stance softened. Leora's glow pulsed gently, and Elias could feel a shift in the energy around them. The creature, sensing no threat, eventually stepped back, retreating into the shadows of the forest. Elias exhaled slowly, relief flooding him. "That was close," he murmured, brushing a hand over Leora's small shoulder. She looked up at him, her glow brightening briefly, a sign of excitement, curiosity, and relief all at once. Elias smiled. She was learning not just from him, but from every experience. And he realized that this trial had already taught her something important about trust, patience, and understanding. They moved away from the river and deeper into the forest, carefully noting the patterns of the terrain and the creatures they encountered. Elias wanted to use this experience as a lesson for Leora. "Every living thing here has its own way of thinking," he said softly. "Some are curious, some are cautious, and some will defend themselves if they feel threatened. The best way to survive and to understand is to pay attention, stay calm, and respect them." Leora seemed to absorb his words, her glow pulsing rhythmically as though acknowledging the lesson. Elias was impressed by how quickly she could learn and adapt, even though everything around her was alien. By afternoon, they reached a clearing that seemed safer, a small plateau overlooking the forest. Elias set down a portable scanner to gather data about the surrounding area, while Leora explored nearby rocks and small plants. She laughed when a tiny insect-like creature landed on her hand, her glow flickering like sunlight through leaves. Elias couldn't help but laugh too, feeling a rare lightness in the midst of the challenges they faced. As they prepared to descend from the plateau, a sudden flash of light illuminated the forest below. Elias froze, sensing another environmental disturbance. Leora's glow spiked, her pulses rapid and urgent. He looked carefully and saw that the forest itself seemed to react violently, trees swaying aggressively, energy surging unpredictably and strange, glowing vines thrashing like tentacles. Before Elias could fully process it, the ground shook again, stronger than before. A fissure opened nearby, and a stream of luminescent energy surged upward, creating a dangerous barrier between them and the safe path. He grabbed Leora, pulling her close. "Hold on, Leora. We can get through this together." With careful movements, Elias guided them through the unstable terrain. Rocks shifted beneath their feet, energy arcs flickered dangerously close, and the air vibrated with intense pressure. He realized that this trial was unlike the encounter with the creature. It was a test of his ingenuity, not just his patience. He needed to find a way to move them safely to solid ground. He scanned the area quickly and spotted a series of large boulders that could serve as stepping points. "Step here, Leora. Carefully," he instructed, demonstrating first with his own hands. She watched closely, then mimicked him, her glow adjusting with each movement. Step by step, they navigated the treacherous path, balancing on the boulders as the energy surges threatened to knock them off course. When they finally reached a stable area, Elias dropped to his knees, exhausted but relieved. Leora clung to him briefly, her glow dimming as she caught her breath. He held her gently, feeling the enormity of what they had just endured. This was more than survival. It was a lesson in trust, courage, and human ingenuity. As they rested, Elias realized that this experience had changed him as well. Humans were capable of more than strength or logic. They could adapt, improvise, and respond with empathy and intelligence. Leora's presence amplified that, showing him that care and understanding could influence even the most dangerous situations. Evening arrived, and Elias set up camp again, carefully monitoring Leora and the surrounding forest. He knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, but he also felt a growing confidence. They had survived the first real trial together, and their bond had strengthened in ways neither of them fully understood. Leora rested against him, her glow soft and steady. Elias watched the stars begin to appear above the luminescent forest canopy, reflecting on the day's events. He understood why the Queen had entrusted her to him. Humanity's strength was not in weapons or dominance. It was in the ability to connect, protect, and adapt. And in that ability, Elias felt a deep sense of purpose, knowing that he and Leora were beginning something extraordinary, something that could change both their worlds forever. As night deepened, Elias felt a quiet determination settle over him. Whatever dangers awaited them, he would face them with courage, patience, and understanding. The forest hummed around them, alive with energy and light, a silent witness to the growing bond between a human and the child of an alien queen. And for the first time he allowed himself to believe that this bond, fragile, strange, and miraculous, might be the key to something greater than either of them could imagine. The morning sun rose slowly over Veyara Prime, casting soft golden light across the forest. Elias Mercer stirred from sleep, careful not to disturb Leora, who had curled up beside him. Her glow shifted gently as she opened her eyes, blinking at the unfamiliar shapes of the trees. Elias smiled and reached out his hand. "Good morning, Leora," he said softly. She reached for him instinctively, her tiny fingers brushing against his. Today, he decided, would be about exploration and understanding. After the recent trial with the massive creature and the unstable energy surge, Elias realized that Leora was capable of learning not only from danger, but from observation and curiosity. He wanted to show her more about humanity, and he wanted to learn more about her alien world. Together they could begin to bridge the gap between two very different civilizations. They moved carefully through the glowing forest, stepping over roots and weaving through luminous vines. Leora's pulses of light reflected her curiosity, and Elias noticed that the environment seemed to respond to her presence. Leaves shimmered brighter as she approached, and small creatures peeked from the undergrowth, observing them with cautious fascination. It was clear that the forest had become a living classroom for both of them. Elias decided to start with something simple but meaningful. He retrieved a small recorder and speaker from his pack. "This is music, Leora," he said, pressing play. Gentle tones filled the clearing, notes rising and falling like the wind through the trees. Leora tilted her head, her glow pulsing in rhythm with the music. She stepped closer, letting the vibrations wash over her. Elias smiled. "Music is a way humans express feelings," he explained. "It can be joy, sadness, curiosity, or comfort. Can you feel it?" Leora's glow shifted, running in waves across her skin. Elias interpreted it as a sign of understanding. She lifted her hands and moved them in the air, as if conducting the invisible melodies around her. The plants nearby responded, leaves shimmering in harmony with the music. Elias watched in awe. Not only was she learning, but she was also sharing her influence with the environment in a creative, almost playful way. After the music lesson, Elias decided it was time to teach her more about human stories. He pulled out a small holographic projector from his pack. With a few simple gestures, he activated it, and a soft image of a forest on Earth appeared, populated by animals and humans moving through it. He narrated a short story about cooperation between humans and nature, keeping his words simple but expressive. Leora watched intently, her eyes wide and glowing. She reached out toward the projections as if trying to touch the scenes. Elias realized that stories like music could convey ideas and emotions across species. As they rested, Elias observed her reactions closely. Leora's responses were subtle. A flicker of light here, a tiny movement there, but they carried meaning. He began to understand her patterns more clearly. She responded to emotion, to intent, to the rhythm of his words and gestures. It was not like teaching a child on Earth, it was more profound. He had to communicate with patience, empathy, and intuition. After a break, Elias led Leora toward a gentle river that curved through a wide valley. The water shimmered with reflections of the glowing forest. "These rivers are life," he explained. "Water helps plants grow, gives food to animals, and is important for humans too." Leora crouched beside the stream, touching the water gently with her fingers. Her glow brightened as ripples spread across the surface. Elias knelt beside her. "See how your touch changes the water? Everything here is connected. That's why it's important to be gentle and thoughtful in how you move and act." Leora looked at him, her large eyes reflecting the flowing water. She lifted a hand toward his face, tracing a small glowing pattern along his cheek. Elias smiled, realizing that she was beginning to understand more than he could teach with words alone. Her curiosity, her willingness to learn, and her openness to trust were remarkable. They spent the afternoon exploring the valley, observing creatures and plants, and practicing communication. Elias began to introduce simple games. He would point to a plant or creature, and Leora would attempt to replicate its movement or respond with a pattern of light. Sometimes they would chase small glowing insects, laughing and running through the forest in a way that reminded him of children on Earth. These moments were more than play. They were lessons in coordination, observation, and mutual understanding. As they rested on a gentle hillside, Elias began to share more about humanity's world. He described the sky, the sun, the moon, and the stars as humans saw them. He explained human inventions from simple tools to the machines that had brought him across the stars. Leora listened intently, her glow pulsing in rhythm with his words. At times she would tilt her head or reach out her hand as though trying to grasp a concept he was explaining. Elias realized that her learning was not just about observation, it was about imagination. She could understand, adapt, and create connections between the alien world and the human world. The sun began to set, casting long shadows and turning the forest into a tapestry of glowing colors. Elias decided it was time to set up camp. He guided Leora to a safe clearing near the river. She helped him gather small branches and glowing moss to build a comfortable resting area. Her movements were careful and deliberate, showing that she was learning responsibility and the value of preparation. As they settled down, Elias reflected on the day. He had not only taught Leora about humans but had also learned from her. She had a natural empathy for the world around her, a sensitivity to energy, movement, and emotion that humans rarely possessed. Her presence had taught him patience, observation, and the importance of gentle guidance. He realized that this cultural exchange, human to alien and alien to human, was forming a bond that went beyond words. Night fell, and the forest glowed softly under the starlight. Elias built a small fire, careful to keep it contained and safe. Leora sat beside him, her glow dimming to a calm, steady light. Elias spoke softly, telling her stories about his childhood on Earth, about the stars, and about human dreams. She listened, occasionally reaching out to touch his hand or shoulder. Each touch seemed to carry meaning, a subtle acknowledgement of trust and connection. Elias noticed that the forest responded to their calm presence. Leaves shimmered softly, creatures moved quietly, and the air felt harmonious. It was as if the world itself recognized the bond forming between human and alien child. He understood then that teaching and learning were not one-sided. Leora had taught him as much as he had taught her. She had shown him how to see the world differently, to feel deeply, and to respect the connections that existed in every living thing. As he watched her sleep, Elias made a silent promise. He would protect her, guide her, and help her grow, not just as a child of her species, but as a being capable of understanding both worlds. The trust placed in him by the alien queen was profound, and he knew that he could not fail. Their journey was not just about survival. It was about creating understanding, empathy, and friendship between civilizations. The night passed quietly. Elias remained alert, observing Leora in the forest. He realized that this cultural exchange was only the beginning. Tomorrow they would venture farther, encounter new creatures, and learn more about each other and the world around them. But tonight they rested in harmony, two beings from entirely different worlds connected by trust, curiosity, and care. Morning came again, and Elias stirred, feeling renewed energy. Leora was already awake, her glow pulsating gently. He smiled. Today they would explore new ideas, new connections, and new ways to communicate. Every day was a lesson, every moment an opportunity to understand and grow. As they walked through the forest together, Elias thought about the Queen's words, "Be gentle with her." He understood now that gentleness was not just about physical care. It was about patience, empathy, and understanding. It was about creating a bond that could withstand challenges, dangers, and the unknown. And in that understanding, he felt the true power of humanity, the ability to connect, teach, and protect across the boundaries of species, culture, and even worlds. By the end of the day, Elias and Leora had learned more about each other, about trust, and about the delicate balance of life on Veyara Prime. Their bond had deepened, strengthened by shared experiences, laughter, lessons, and quiet moments of reflection. Elias knew that the challenges ahead would test them further, but he also knew that together they could face anything. As night fell once more, the forest hummed softly around them. Elias and Leora sat near the river, her glow soft and steady against the starlit sky. He looked at her and smiled. Whatever awaited them, whatever trials the future held, they had each other. And that connection, fragile, luminous, and extraordinary, was the beginning of something that could change everything. The morning sun broke through the glowing canopy of Vieira Prime, spilling golden light across the forest floor. Elias Mercer awoke first, careful not to disturb Leora. She lay beside him, her soft glow pulsing gently in rhythm with her breathing. Today felt different. There was a stillness in the forest, a sense of anticipation that Elias could feel in his chest. He rose quietly, stretching and preparing for the day ahead. Leora stirred, blinking her large, luminous eyes at him. She reached out instinctively, and he took her small hand in his. "Good morning, Leora," he said softly. Her glow brightened slightly, a response that seemed like a smile. Elias knew that whatever happened today, their bond would be tested. He could feel it in the subtle tension in the air, a signal that something important was coming. They moved through the forest carefully, Leora mimicking his movements, learning from his careful observation of the environment. Every step was deliberate. Every gesture was a lesson. Elias spoke softly to her, explaining the patterns of the trees, the behaviors of creatures, and the subtle shifts in the energy of the land. Leora absorbed everything, her glowing patterns shifting in ways that showed curiosity, understanding, and delight. As they approached a wide clearing, the air vibrated with energy. Elias' heart raced. The clearing was filled with a soft golden light, and in its center hovered a shimmering figure. The alien Queen Calith had returned. Her form was as majestic and imposing as he remembered, yet there was a warmth in her gaze, a quiet approval. She observed them silently, allowing Elias to approach with Leora safely in his arms. "Elias Mercer," she said, her voice melodic yet commanding. "You have cared for her well. You have taught, guided, and protected my daughter. I see the trust and bond that have formed between you." "This is what I hoped for." Elias lowered his gaze respectfully. "I have done my best," he replied. "She is extraordinary. I have learned more from her than I could have imagined." The Queen's eyes softened, shifting color in a way that reflected her emotions. "Indeed, she is the bridge between our worlds. And you, human, have proven that your kind possesses qualities rare among the stars. Empathy, courage, and patience. These are the traits that can unite civilizations." Leora, sensing the Queen's presence, lifted her small hands and emitted a soft glow. The forest responded, shimmering as though acknowledging her and the Queen. Elias felt a surge of pride and awe. He realized that this moment was more than recognition. It was affirmation that their bond was meaningful, that humans could indeed play a role in shaping relationships across worlds. The Queen floated closer. "Leora," she said softly, "you have learned much from him. You have begun to understand the ways of humans, their patience, their creativity, and their capacity for care. Remember these lessons, for they will guide you as you grow." Leora responded with a gentle pulse of light, her small hands reaching toward Elias. It was clear that she had internalized much of what he had taught her. Elias smiled, feeling a profound connection between them, a bond forged through trust, guidance, and shared experience. The Queen turned her gaze back to Elias. "Because of your care, your guidance, and your willingness to learn from her as well, I offer you a choice. You may return with her to your world, to continue teaching, learning, and exploring together, or you may remain here continuing your work on Vieira Prime, guiding my daughter among her own people. The choice is yours." Elias felt the weight of the decision settle over him. Both paths were filled with promise and responsibility. He looked down at Leora, her glow steady and trusting. He realized that wherever he went, his purpose was clear: to protect, guide, and nurture her, allowing her to grow while sharing the best of humanity with her. "I will take her with me," he said finally, his voice calm and resolute. "We will continue to learn from each other, and I will show her the ways of my world as well." The Queen nodded, a faint smile gracing her face. "So it shall be. You have proven the value of trust, empathy, and gentle guidance. Carry these lessons with you. And remember that the bond between human and alien can shape the future. With a graceful motion, the Queen raised her hand, and a sphere of shimmering energy enveloped Leora. Elias watched as she was carefully lifted and cradled by the energy, her glow intertwining with the light around her. He felt a pulse of warmth, a signal that she was secure and that their connection remained intact, despite the unusual transport. The Queen spoke once more. "Go now, Elias, protect her, teach her, and learn from her. The galaxy watches with hope for what humans and Leora may accomplish together." Elias stepped forward, feeling a surge of determination and purpose. "I will not fail," he said. Leora's small hand reached out to touch his chest, her glow pulsing softly in response. He knew that she understood his words, even without the need for human speech. Together they began the journey back to the area where Elias's ship waited. The forest seemed to guide them, as if recognizing their purpose and honoring their bond. Creatures of all sizes watched silently, and the leaves shimmered in approval. Elias realized that their actions were not only important to Leora and the Queen, but also to the world around them. Every step they took reinforced the connection between species, showing that understanding and care could shape outcomes even in the most alien environments. As they reached the landing area, Elias carefully set Leora down. She looked up at him, her glow steady and trusting. He smiled. "Are you ready?" he asked. She responded with a soft pulse, moving to his side as they approached the ship. The journey home was quiet, but filled with reflection. Elias observed Leora as she watched the stars outside the ship's viewport. She seemed mesmerized, her glow shifting gently as if synchronizing with the movements of distant planets and moons. Elias realized that she was learning not just from him, but from the universe itself. When they entered Earth's orbit, the planet below looked familiar yet different to Leora. Elias gently explained the landscapes, the oceans, and the cities. She listened intently, occasionally reaching out to touch the holographic displays he activated for better understanding. Elias marveled at her ability to adapt and absorb new information, knowing that she would continue to teach him about her own world as well. Once they landed in a secure research facility, Elias guided Leora through simple routines: eating, resting, and exploring in controlled spaces. She observed everything carefully, asking questions through gestures and light pulses. Elias responded patiently, reinforcing lessons of human culture, cooperation, and empathy. He encouraged her to explore safely, to interact with humans who were curious but respectful. Over time, Leora began to respond to humans with confidence. Her glow shifted in joyful patterns when she learned a new word or experienced a new sensation. Elias realized that she was becoming a cultural ambassador, not through force or command, but through her own curiosity, intelligence, and the lessons he had taught her. Their bond had grown into something extraordinary, a partnership that bridged worlds. One evening, as they watched the sunset from the observation deck, Elias reflected on the journey. He thought of the Queen's words, of the trials they had faced on Veyara Prime, and of the bond they had forged. Leora's small hand rested in his, and her glow pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. He understood that their story was only beginning. "Tomorrow," he said softly, "we will explore more of your world, Leora. There is so much for us to learn, together." She responded with a gentle pulse, and Elias smiled. He realized that humanity's gift, empathy, courage, patience, and creativity, was what allowed this partnership to exist. They had faced alien landscapes, dangerous creatures, and environmental challenges, and yet they had grown stronger together. As night fell, the city lights below twinkled like stars. Elias and Leora sat quietly, her glow soft and calm. He knew that the galaxy was watching, that other civilizations might take notice of what humans could accomplish through understanding and care, and he understood finally why the Queen had entrusted her daughter to him. This was more than a mission, more than a journey. It was proof that humans, with their empathy, creativity, and gentle strength, could form bonds that transcended worlds. Leora had taught him as much as he had taught her. Together they were not just human and alien, they were partners, explorers and ambassadors of trust. And as Elias watched Leora's glow pulse softly against the backdrop of Earth's night sky, he knew that whatever challenges awaited them in the future, they would face them together. Their bond, fragile and extraordinary, had the power to shape not only their lives but the relationships between worlds, showing that gentleness, patience, and empathy were the greatest strengths any species could possess. The stars above seemed to shine brighter that night, reflecting the light of a unique partnership, human and alien, teacher and student, protector and child, ready to explore the universe together. Elias whispered softly, "We've only just begun, Leora, and I promise we will do it together." She responded with a pulse of light, and for the first time Elias felt the full weight and wonder of the adventure ahead. The galaxy, it seemed, was full of possibilities, and together they were ready to meet them all.